The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to this episode of the Puck Portfolio for Tuesday, May 21st. We are moving on to the third round of the NHL playoffs. The conference finals are set after the Edmonton Oilers defeated the Vancouver Canucks in Game 7 by a score of 3-2 on Monday. The Final Four consists of the Dallas Stars, the Edmonton Oilers, the New York Rangers, and the Florida Panthers. I'm Andy MacNeil, your host of the Puck Portfolio. I'll be joined by Michael Leboff here in a little bit from the Action Network's Line Change podcast. But yeah, we are going to preview the Eastern Conference final between the New York Rangers and the Florida Panthers. Of course, the Rangers won the President's Trophy with 114 points, a team record, while the Florida Panthers finished first in the Atlantic Division. So let's get into it. Michael, how you doing, man?
I'm pretty good. Enjoying a day off here without any hockey, and but I'm sure I'll miss it by this time tomorrow.
Well, yeah, you'll be doing all right then, because we will have some hockey to watch on Wednesday. The series gets underway on Wednesday, Game 1 at MSG. Matthew Tkachuk talking about how excited he is. MSG playoff hockey, Eastern Conference Finals, pretty good scene. I'm sure Leboff would rather see this going down at UBS Arena, but oh well, maybe next year. He's on the Rangers bandwagon. Clearly, is that the case, Leboff? Have you converted over to a Rangers fan now that they're the best team in New York?
No. It's funny though that I think people really misunderstand like the rivalry between Islanders and Rangers. Outside of it, like it's very different from even like the New York rivalries, like Yankees Mets or Giants and Jets. Like you do have the same elements where you have a lot of family members who are either like Islanders or Rangers, or your best friends are like Rangers or Islanders or whatever.
Yeah.
But the difference between Islanders and Rangers and Yankees Mets, Jets Giants is that we're in the same division, right? Like those teams are in different leagues. The only time they could ever really come into play is if they played each other in the Super Bowl or World Series. So it's very different. Like it's like a 24/7, 365 thing here. For those ones, it's a little different, but yeah. So it's not been fun around here, but it takes a little while for the Rangers, the city to like realize the Rangers are on a playoff run. But once you get to this part, like they do. So you see all the bandwagoners coming out and all the celebrities packing MSG, and all the fans can't get in. So they all travel to Florida to see the Rangers. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's probably a lot cheaper to do that as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, New York, like I said, they won the President's Trophy, team record, 114 points. They needed just 10 games to reach the Eastern Conference Final. The Rangers swept the Washington Capitals in the first round. They won in 6 games against the Hurricanes in round 2, but obviously they get out to a 3-0 series lead, almost blew that, and they were well on their way to Carolina was to forcing a Game 7. But thanks to a natural hat trick in a span of about 7 minutes in the third period from Chris Kreider in Game 6, the Rangers rallied from a 3-1 deficit to win 5-3. So New York's, they've got the shooters, etc. They've got a lot of star power. Their power play has been a driving force behind this playoff run. New York is 31.4% on the power play. Special teams in general, really, they're 89.5% on the penalty kill. They've got 4 shorthanded goals in the playoffs so far in just 10 games. So really good special teams. But I mean, let's be honest, Igor Shesterkin is the main reason why they are where they are, why they have reached this point. He's been arguably the best goaltender in the playoffs, maybe outside of Jeremy Swayman. He's got an 8-2 record, a .922 save percentage. According to Evolving Hockey, he saved the team approximately 9 goals above expected in those 10 starts. So in other words, he's saving the team roughly 1 goal more than an average goaltender would had they faced the same shot quality. And he faced a lot of shots, not necessarily the highest quality of shots against Carolina, but he did face 37.2 shots per game in the second round. So he had his work cut out for him, and he stood tall against a pretty good Carolina team. And I think this matchup is pretty similar in a lot of ways. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that the matchup is similar, but the Panthers are better equipped, I guess, like to a man to handle what
Yeah.
the Rangers do than the Hurricanes were, and of course it comes down to the goaltending. I think um, the Rangers are always going to have the edge in goal, but the question always is going to be how wide is it, and
Yeah.
we won't know that until the games start getting played. Like I thought Charlie Lindgren was fine in round one,
Yeah.
but he posted an 886 save percentage, 864, and then obviously Anderson and really struggled, and him and Kochetkov, I think, combined for 878. Would you say, like, how likely is it that Bobrovsky improves on that numbers? You'd probably say it's pretty likely that he's
Yeah.
better than that. And the Rangers needed some serious help from Anderson to avoid getting uh, to game seven when in a series they were up 3-0. So yeah, there's definitely some signs that would suggest that the Panthers will be put up more resistance
Yeah.
to what the Rangers do than Carolina, and obviously what Washington did. But at the same time, like they could still do what they do. And I always say, like, to beat the Rangers, you need to outplay them for the majority of the game, but for them to beat you, they really only need to have what 3 or 4 good minutes of play, it seems like, right? And
Yeah.
um that's such a hard like philosophy or approach or however you want to say it to not only play against but to handicap, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think that's why you see a lot of people projecting out the Panthers as a significant favorite. I think that's why you see the money has come in on Florida to win the series. And but at the same time, I think that's why, despite those factors, you're going to see a lot of people picking the Rangers because they can just work smarter and not harder and beat you.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think to your point about Bobrovsky, absolutely, we should expect him to be better than obviously Charlie Lindgren and also Frederick Anderson. He's got a 903 save percentage in the playoffs, better than both of those players. But he's only saved the team, not to dismiss what he's done so far. He's saved the team roughly 4.4 goals above expected. I don't think he's been like out of this world in the playoffs so far. He's had his moments. He's made some great saves, some big saves at some key times. But I thought he was rather beatable in the Boston series. I mean, the Bruins did not generate nearly enough offense in a number of those games, specifically in the middle of the series. He wasn't getting tested very much whatsoever. A lot of the shots weren't even making it to him or on goal regularly. So I think we're going to really learn a lot about what Bobrovsky's current form is right now in these first few games against the Rangers. I mean, he's going to be tested in all kinds of ways, and I think on the other side, Shesterkin is too. The Panthers are going to they're going to create a lot more east to west offense in when they get zone time, I think, especially on the power play and stuff. And that's going to be a little bit different than what he saw with the north south attack of the Carolina Hurricanes. So it's going to be an interesting series, but by my eye, I think the Rangers, while they do deserve to be an underdog, I think it's a little bit egregious to we see a game one price here with the New York Rangers at minus 103 right now at NorthStar Bets. You can check out NorthStar Bets via the link in the description below. They are our sponsor for this show, good old Canadian sportsbook. But they've got the New York Rangers at minus 103, which is roughly kind of similar to where we saw them priced opening up versus Carolina at the start of that series on home ice. And yeah, so I think while I did have Carolina as a small favorite, at the beginning of that series, I think we learned a lot about the Rangers. I changed my tune a little bit as the series went on. And I've got the Rangers actually listed as a minus 109 favorite in game one, a little bit less in game two. Um, but New York does have a bit of a has had a bit of a time off to reset, and I do have the Rangers as a small favorite. So I couldn't necessarily, I could play them in game one. But I like that the series price. I think the Rangers should be priced at plus 110 on the series line. I think they've got about a 47.5% chance of winning. So yeah, I'll take the Rangers at plus 123 on the series line. Those are the current odds at NorthStar Bets. The Panthers, a minus 143 favorite. But yeah, I'll take the Rangers. Hopefully they can get out and get a series lead like they did against the Hurricanes. I think they shocked a lot of people with the way they came out against Carolina in game one. Hopefully they'll replicate that performance here against the Panthers. As far as the series line goes, are you taking a side? Is there any series props or anything like that, correct score, etc., that you've got your eye on for this Eastern Conference final?
Yeah, I think just overall my thinking is in line with yours, which is once again I understand why the money. You and I have been around betting markets long enough to understand why the money has come in on Florida. Like we get what people are looking at and different groups are looking at and different sharp people are looking at here
Yeah.
to tell you that what the Rangers are have done not just in the regular season, but in the first round and the second round, maybe it's not sustainable and it just won't work as well against a team like Florida, which looks to be in good form and all that. And they control the 5-on-5 is just as well as Carolina does, and all the upside they have in terms of star power. Um, but I don't necessarily agree with the market continuing to move at this point. Like I think that
Yeah.
at this point we've probably gone too far, and now it's the Rangers who hold value in the series line. It's on. There's a couple things that are deterring me from betting into or saying something which I've been doing with the Dallas series, which is that hey, this Dallas team can absolutely fall behind and come back. And I know it's
Yeah.
easy to say that in hindsight, but before when they went down 2-0 in round one, I was like, this is the time to bet a Stars future. When they went down 1-0 against Colorado, I said, that this is absolutely a good time to get in on Dallas because we just know that the Stars are really good. They can come back. I really wonder if the Rangers are able to do that, right? Like they're very good front running team. And actually they're a good chasing team, like in a game, like in the actual game. But in a series, I think it's a little harder because they are so dependent on you making mistakes, and we haven't seen them really come under much pressure yet this season.
Yeah.
And in the playoffs, I know people are pointing Game 6, they were under pressure there. They're down 3-1 and on the cusp of blowing a 3-0 lead, but still, like they were in control of that series. Just that they still had another game that they could have won, and they haven't really had their backs against the wall yet. So I'm really interested to see what it looks like after Game 1. If New York is able to win, so be it. But if they lose, what do we kind of response do we see from the Rangers, just generally, because they just haven't really been under much pressure yet this postseason. So that's one thing. Another thing I'm just like kind of considering here in the big picture. But like you, I think that the numbers just getting a little crazy. I know Ranger fans love it. They're loving this whole, we get to play the under, we get to win the President's Trophy and still play the under. We get to be, President's
Yeah.
Trophy winner, more biggest media market in the States in terms of hockey. The
Yeah.
Madison Square Garden, more money than any team in hockey, basically, and yet
Yeah.
we still get to play the underdog role. So they love it. But I do think that at this point it's a little too far gone.
Yeah, and I wonder how the Rangers will react to this being, what should be a much more physical series compared to how
Yeah.
the Carolina Hurricanes play. The Panthers finished the regular season with the most hits in the NHL, 2,300 some odd hits. The Rangers, they were up there too. They're in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th spot with roughly 2,000 hits. So, they should be able to hold their own, but it's going to be a big change from playing the Hurricanes, who aren't a very physical team. They are hard on the puck. They are hard on the forecheck and whatnot. But as far as hitting goes, not necessarily their game. So it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the Rangers. But one thing I did want to bring up as far as Game 1 goes, and just this series in general, with such good goaltenders, the prospect of having such good goaltenders in this series, you're going to see some low totals. And I don't think that necessarily is what we should be seeing here. I mean, we look at the past history between these two teams. They played 10 times dating back to November of 2019, and 9 out of 10 of those games have featured at least 7 goals. The other game featured 6 goals. So they've gone over this 5.5 total in 10 straight meetings. And I think, given the makeup of these two teams, how many star players on both sides, how easy it is for these teams to capitalize in the high leverage situations, the power play, etc. I think you're going to see a lot more goals than people expect. I think, as I mentioned before we started here today, Shesterkin and Bobrovsky could both let in 3 goals a game on average and not necessarily be playing bad. So there's just so much star power in this series. So many good shooters. I mean, the Panthers got 3 players that are capable of scoring 40 to 50 goals in a season. The Rangers got plenty of those as well. So I think this is going to be a lights out series offensively. And I don't think we're going to necessarily see the 2-1, 3-2 goaltending battle. I think we'll be seeing the 3-3, 4-4 kind of goaltending battle more likely.
Yeah, I think game 1 between the Rangers and Hurricanes is a really good example of what I expect this whole series to kind of look like.
Yeah.
Rangers taking their chances, the Hurricanes kind of held together enough and were able to take advantage of getting the ice tilted in certain moments. And like you said, these are 2 teams that aren't strangers to the penalty box. They both have good power plays. I expect that the Rangers seem to be allergic to regression, but you'd expect that 89.5 penalty kill rate will some
Yeah,
point come
especially
down.
against the Panthers.
Right, exactly. Like what the Hurricanes went 0 for their first 15 or something like that. And the Capitals really struggled on that power play as well. But
Yeah.
you'd expect like there to be more. The Hurricane series with the Rangers seemed to be like the Hurricanes would push and push and push and finally get one on the board, and then they'd make a mistake or Igor would make a save. The Rangers would go back and score, take over momentum and whatever. Whereas this one, it's just going to be the Panthers will push. They'll probably convert at a better rate than the
Yeah.
Hurricanes. The Rangers will push back. They'll convert at their usual rate, and it'll be much more, seesaw battles and such. It really does seem like it should be a heavyweight, slug it out series in terms of the offensive firepower. But as you said, the goaltenders are the headliners, and I think that's why we're seeing these low totals. And this is actually going to be a fun series to basically start betting the overs early on. I'm expecting the market to react and to adjust,
Yeah.
and we'll start seeing the total creep up. And then as we get towards the
Shift.
elimination,
Yeah.
the elimination games is when you start going back the other way. So there's a really good setup there, I think, for that
Unless it's the
strategy.
Oilers, because then you're probably
Right.
gonna don't be doing these first period overs in the 6s and 7s with the Oilers
Yeah.
because but yeah, that did not work out for me. I think the first period overs were 8-0 in game 6 and 7 so far in the playoffs, heading into game 6 between the Oilers and Canucks. That first period went over. Last night's game 7 first period went over, so 8-2 now in the playoffs for the first period unders when we're talking about a game 6 or a game 7. I think we're 10-0 on the full game under, or no, actually, we had the Rangers and the Hurricanes go over in game 6. So we are
Yes.
9-1 on the
Something like that. Yeah.
9-1 on the game 6 and game 7 full game unders. So definitely a trend to the under in the elimination games. Makes sense. Something we see in other playoff seasons for sure. But yeah, I'm gonna lock in. I locked in the over 5.5. NorthStar Bets has it at -109. I did shop around and find some even money though, which is pretty widely available. So kind of can't pass on that. So I got the Rangers and the Panthers over 5.5 in game 1 at even money. That's a 1-unit play, a 1-unit bet on the Rangers to win the series at +123. And I guess just a final note about both of these teams. One thing that stands out to me, and I know I guess I don't even know if you could say that the Panthers have had a tougher road. They've had, 2 tougher teams. I guess, on average, their opponents have been tougher, but I think even though New York was lucky enough to draw Washington in round 1, Carolina was a pretty, formidable opponent to have to go up against just in terms of their expected goal share and stuff like that. And if you look at the even strength expected goal share of both of these teams in the playoffs so far, the Rangers are down there. They're at 46.3%, but the Panthers are just at 48.5%. So they're not necessarily dominating even strength play or anything like that. They very well could in this series because that is something they did in the regular season. But I think if you look how the Panthers played down the stretch, there were some kind of concerning signs about them not looking as dominant as they did in between October and February. In March and April, they kind of started to let their foot off the gas. So I think it'll be important for New York or for the Florida Panthers to get back to just being that dominant, even strength team that does not let you breathe. that really just kind of shoves the puck down your throat for the entire game. Because I think otherwise, if they just want to play, pond hockey with the Rangers, not a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I say this all the time with these Rangers handicaps is like you model games out. We get into all these numbers. Like you can get as complicated as you want handicapping hockey. But when it comes to the Rangers, I think one very simple exercise to do is make 2 lists. And on one list, write the things that need to go right for the Rangers to win the series in a game. And then on the other list, write the things that think the Panthers would need to have go right. And we saw it with the Hurricanes. Like the Hurricanes needed like 6 or 7 things. They needed to win 6 or 7 battles to win games, right? They needed to win at 5-on-5. They needed to have, their goaltending needed to be at least up to par. They needed to shut down the Rangers power play, all this stuff that needed to go right. Whereas the Rangers, like they really only need like 2 things, right? They need Igor and they need a special teams goal or 2, and that's it. And I don't think that the list will be as lopsided for this series, but it is still the case, right? Like you said it. If Florida wants to have a chance to win this thing, they need to be the better 5-on-5 team. They absolutely need to be, and even that might not be enough. Like the Rangers are not gonna lose this series just because they get outplayed at 5-on-5. You need to also beat them at other things. So yeah, it's a tough one to call. And I will just shout out a couple long shot props that I like before you get out of here. That's
For sure.
I
Absolutely.
think Tarasenko is worth a bet at 30-1 to lead the series in goals. It's much more with how I project this series to play out rather than just like believing in Tarasenko. It's more that I think that with all the star power on display, like the scoring is going to be spread out, right? Each team has 4 or 5 guys that you think could score 6 or 7 in a series easy. So right away, that means that you're going to see production from all over the place. So it might only take 3 or 4 goals to do it. And Tarasenko's price is 30-1. He plays on that top unit, gets power play time. So I like that. And then I like Brandon Montour at 110-1 to lead the series in points. And it's a similar kind of handicap. It might not take all that much. And when you got a guy like him who's just constantly funneling the puck to the net, he's going to pick up some points, some cheap points, and hopefully get on the board a couple times as well. So I think he's worth a shot.
Yeah, I like it. Absolutely. I think you've got to, in a series like this where there's going to be so much attention paid to the top stars, there's not going to be a lot of room for those guys to move around out there. You might see an unsung hero or a guy like Tarasenko emerge as the kind of the hero for this series. As far as my series prediction goes, I mentioned that I think Florida will win this one roughly 52.5% of the time, so they're a small favorite. I've got the Panthers winning in 4 games, roughly 7% of the time. About 13% of the time, they'll win in 5 games. Roughly 17.5% of the time, they will win in 6 games. And there's about a 15% chance that they'll win the series in 7 games. New York, meanwhile, they've got about a 5.5% chance of sweeping the Panthers, about a 12% chance of winning in 5 games, about a 14% chance of winning in 6 games, 16% chance of winning in 7 games, and then, as I mentioned, a 47.5% chance of winning the series. So looking at the correct series score, other series markets, exact outcome, etc., doesn't seem to be much value there, and that typically is the case. If I'm pretty closely in line with what we're seeing at sports books, even though I do see some value on the Rangers. So it's not really surprising that these derivative, the correct score, etc., are pretty much lining up with where I have them. For instance, I've got New York's odds of winning the series 4-3 priced at plus 515. You can get plus 525 at NorthStar Bets. So yeah, technically a little bit of value there, but I think there's a more than enough value on the series price to bet on the Rangers to just win this thing straight up any way they can. But that pretty much does it for today's Eastern Conference preview. Thanks for tuning into the Puck Portfolio. Drop a like on the video. Share it if you don't mind. Helps out a ton. And, of course, subscribe to the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel and give us a follow on Twitter at CanSportBetting. sounded like I was going to say something else, but that's the name, Can Sports Betting. Anyways, but anyways, yeah, thanks a lot, Michael. Appreciate it, man. Hopefully you're not too sad when the Rangers make it to the Stanley Cup final. But yeah, I'm hoping they will.
Yeah, I'll do my best here. I've got a big Oilers future that I'm rooting for more than anything. So let's just maybe they can get there for me, but I don't believe
I
them.
wish I could root for the Oilers, but I've got Stars futures, and yeah, I'm feeling a lot better than that about that than I think I would be if I was holding the Oilers futures.
You should.
I guess final thought and an early thought about the Western Conference preview, which we will be doing on tomorrow's episode. But Edmonton, if they try that shit like they tried last night against the Dallas Stars, good night. Yeah. I mean, you know, they played great in the first 25 minutes of that game, dominating, you know, totally one-sided. But a 2-goal lead, you know, I mean, if you're going to sit on a 2-goal lead and get like 5 shots for the rest of the game, and just let Vancouver push and push and push, if you let Dallas do that, it's gonna be ugly.
Yep. No, I agree with you. But the one thing I will say is it does seem to be that nobody has any confidence in the Oilers, and this Rupe Hintz situation is really peculiar.
Yeah.
And so that's the one thing. But I agree with you. I do think I wish that it was a Dallas Stars Hideki Matsuyama parlay that I'm sitting on, not a Oilers Matsuyama. He won the Genesis Open at 80-1, and I threw the Oilers on top of that for some unknown reason. So
what is the total pay, like odds on that then?
It was
80-1.
It's like 768. It was a $14 bet to win $10,775.
Well,
so.
Good luck. You can pay me back on my Stars future if you win.
Yeah, I will absolutely cover it. I'll buy you a Cody Ceci.
Buy me a future for next. Buy me a futures bet for next year.
Yeah, I'll get you Islanders future.
I don't want it. Anyway, I don't want to have any reason to cheer for the Islanders. Let's just say that. But yeah, thanks for joining the show, Michael. Appreciate it. What do you got coming up on line change this week? You want to let everybody know?
Yeah, we got we already did our Eastern Conference preview. I think we're doing our Western Conference tomorrow after game 1. So you'll get that preview plus game 2 for Rangers Panthers, and then we'll just be recording basically every other day throughout the conference finals. So you can hear me, Nick, and Tim on line change with an exclamation point on podcast channels wherever you download them.
For sure. Yeah, everybody give him a follow. Check him out at the Big Lebowski on Twitter, X. But that does it for today's show. I'm Andy MacNeil. You can follow me on Twitter at Digital Gambler. Good luck with your bets. We'll see you tomorrow.